The great thing about having this YouTube channel is it's a good way to do psychoanalysis on myself without having to do psychoanalysis on myself, because I can just analyze the channel, and that is a good way to get to a part of me. So I've created a little generative ambient thing going on here that's just using various probability sequencing to make a simple ambient track, which hopefully isn't too distracting and it's just some nice background noise, while I can talk to you about my channel and do some analysis, do some hardcore, real shit analysis video. This is analysis video. So when I was a kid, I was smart. Or I wasn't smart, but I was very good at pretending to be smart. I was very good at knowing lots of facts. And I learned to really enjoy explaining things to people. People would ask me questions. I get to answer, I get to explain something. Now, the cynical approach would be to say that no thank you likes explaining things to people because he's a narcissist and he likes knowing something that other people don't. It's a very easy way to feel good about yourself, that you are smarter than someone and you can prove it by telling them something they don't know. That's the cynical way. The other way, the less cynical way to analyze that, is sharing knowledge is just a great feeling. That the more knowledge there is in the world, the better, and people tend to like learning. So if you can tell something to someone that they don't know, they can then learn about it, and then you get second-hand enjoyment from watching them learn something new. And personally, I think it's probably a little bit of both. So as a kid, I had loads of opportunities to explain things to people, because I was in school with loads of other kids. Teachers would ask me questions, parents would ask me questions, friends would ask me questions. There's always opportunities. But adults don't ask questions these days. Like, as an adult, hanging out with other adults, they don't ask questions. So there's not really the opportunity to explain things to people. Plus, as I've grown up, the things that would have been cool, the things that people didn't know, are different. There's no point explaining, I don't know, the stuff I would have explained to a friend of mine back in school, because people know it. Adults know that stuff. So the stuff I would want to explain, the stuff I'm knowledgeable about, I'm gonna explain something that people don't know, a more specialist thing. And my specialist things happen to be relatively obscure, like anime or experimental music. The sort of thing that most people don't really want to ask questions about or care about. And the people that do already know it. Like, I'm not going to explain the history of metatext in anime. Yesterday I sat down and just talked out loud explaining the entire history of meta in anime, imagining I was talking to my father. Don't know why. Weird thing to do, but did it. There's no point explaining that to my friends because they all know it. They probably know more than me about it, actually. Another third interpretation of why I enjoy explaining things is that putting something into words, and this is a fact, a scientific fact, actually strengthens the connections in your brain. When you say something in words, when you can understand a concept well enough to explain it to someone else, it actually helps you to understand it better. So maybe that's why I like explaining things, because it actually helps me to understand the stuff I'm explaining better, because I have to now put myself in someone else's perspective, imagine myself in someone else's perspective, which means I look at the problem or the information or the world in a different angle, and I get to see something more about it. Or I have to think about the base level. Like, when you explain something, you can't just explain from the highest level. You have to explain from the level of knowledge that the person you're talking to has, which means basics. And it's always good to have a strong base on whatever knowledge you're talking about or want to know about. And so explaining things forces you to have a strong enough base. Explaining things is good. Talking about things, discussing things is good. But explaining things is the best part of discussion. When you explain your viewpoint, and then you get to listen and someone else explains their viewpoint. It's great fun. Talking great fun. Talking with people, communication, it's not so bad. Yeah. I have a problem. The same problem. I'm going to have to talk about this at some point. I'm going to have to solidify this in my own brain at some point. I talk about Digi too much on this channel. It feels like I barely think about Digi in my day-to-day life. But as soon as I record these videos, for some reason, Digi seems relevant. Probably because they make similar videos to me. Almost just fell over. At this point it feels weird and obsessive. Like, I feel weird when I talk about Digi, because I'm like, why am I talking about Digi again? This has nothing to do with Digi. But I think it's because I see a lot of myself in her. Like, I was watching Digi's newest video, and she talks about, a lot of stuff that she went through, I also went through. Like, being mistaken for a girl as a child. For me, it only happened when I was very young, but I used to have the hair down to, like, here. Very curly hair, which covered most of my face, and no beard. People thought I was a girl. I can remember many times being asked, are you a boy or a girl? Which is why, when I played Pokemon Emerald for the first time, and Professor Oak asks you, or is it Professor Oak, whatever the fuck, pretty sure it's Professor Oak, says, are you a boy or a girl? I was like, not again. Yeah, I also relate to, like, not understanding how to look cool. Although now I do look cool. I still don't like my hair. I have problems with hair. I just don't like hair in general. I think hair looks weird. This has just turned into talking about me. I'm sorry talking about my channel, but don't worry, we're wrapping around here. It'll come full circle, just like everything. I'm never comfortable with my haircut. Right now especially, I think it looks pretty bad. I need to do something about it. Problem is, I now have a set of constraints, which is I need a haircut that looks good, oily, because I can't be bothered to wash my hair often. So, and my hair is oily right now, as you can see, but my hair gets greasy pretty easy. Which is why I went with the bowl cut, because I thought it would look good, oily, but it just looks like I look like a member of the Beatles from their early days. So I'm going to have to do something about that. That's a bit of a digression. But yeah, I also went through a phase. I don't have any pictures from then, because I'm sure my parents do, but I went through a phase in my early teenage years of complete practicality over style in terms of fashion. I've talked about this before. It's when I got all these like baggy sweatpants that I still wear inside. I used to wear them outside all the time, and I used to wear a big red hoodie. This one. This red hoodie. Slazenger. Sportsdirect.com. If you're from the UK, you know sportsdirect.com. You know what it is. Yeah, because there was no style that really appealed to me. Like, the first fashion sense that appealed to me was when I was an emo, like a few years, like 3-4 years after this. But before that, no fashion sense or style movement or anything looked particularly good that I'd seen, that I'd heard about. And so I just thought, why bother? And I just dressed in as baggy clothes as possible because they're practical. They weren't practical because these trousers are too big, and it doesn't matter when you're inside, like, because you're not moving around too much. But if you're outside walking places, they just fall down. So I'd have to be like walking around pulling my trousers up all the time. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good time. I'm glad I got over that phase. And then I figured after becoming an emo, I started looking at a bit of fashion stuff, not on purpose, but then, later on I figured out, like, okay, the parts of emo fashion I actually like are more of the, the punky stuff, the more DIY stuff, and then, fashion's fashion. But I mean, I had like a lot of difficulty figuring out what makes clothes look good and feel good and stuff, because I also have the same thing where I can constantly feel my clothes on my body. Yeah, but I'm pretty comfortable with the way I dress when I go out. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I don't know why I went on that big tangent. the reason I brought up Digi in the first place was because I wanted to talk about Digi and I have we share a same problem, probably due to another developmental thing we both have in common, which is that both of us were told we were geniuses as a child. I was told I was a prodigy more than a genius, because I was really into quantum physics, putting all the gifted and talented classes, all that shit. And there's a meme of like the gifted kid burnout. But I think the idea of the gifted kid program in any sense is like fucks you up psychologically. And the way it fucked me up psychologically is that it made being smart a part of my identity rather than learning being an ongoing journey that someone does. So it took me a long time to grow out of that like intelligence is not a skill you practice, it's a part of your identity. Obviously it's not part of your identity, but that's how I saw it for a long time, because that was the thing that I was known for, as being the smart kid, being the, even though I didn't get particularly great grades, I just knew a lot of facts, I knew a lot of stuff, I could explain it pretty well, because I'm actually a natural extrovert. I remember, even though I've always sort of thought myself as an introvert and someone who didn't have many friends, materially, in real life, I actually had plenty of friends and talked to people all the time throughout my entire life. Pretty much, with small variations here and there. I remember in school once, we learned about extroverts versus introverts, and the teacher had the class vote on, like, put people in everyone in the class who, like, be voted extrovert or introvert. Like he'd have you stand up in front of the class and then say, raise your hand if you think it's an extrovert, raise your hand if you think it's an introvert, and then you go stand on whatever side of the room, right? And I went up sure that I would be put in introvert, and the entire class put me in extrovert, and I was like, what? And I realized it's because I was the class clown. Like, everyone thinks I'm super extroverted because I'm always talking, but I didn't feel like I was doing it out. They don't realize I was doing it out of desperation, because I wanted to be accepted, and I thought making people smile, making people laugh must mean they like me, whereas if I was honest with them about my personality, they may not like me, or even I didn't even understand this at the time, but that's why I did it. Looking back, it's because I thought the easy way to it's the same thing as explaining things to someone. An easy way to make people like you, or at least the illusion that they like you. If you make the whole class laugh every day, it's way easier to convince yourself that everyone loves you than the reality that some people are just going to not like you as a person. That's just how the world works. But I was going through some stuff at home at the time. I needed some affirmation that people cared about me at that time. So I became the class clown, and then later on I realised another way to make people, actually even before that, I realised another way to make people like you is to perform, which is why I got into guitar. It's like, if you can stand on stage. I remember the year I left school, we had a talent show, primary school or elementary school if you're in the US. Final year of elementary school, the talent show, I did a solo guitar, no I didn't, I played guitar, my friend played drums badly. I played guitar badly as well, because I was singing and playing guitar, and I hadn't practiced it enough, because I was way too overconfident. That I thought, well, if I was practicing singing at home, it'd be like I'd have to sing. I don't want to have to sing loudly at home. That's embarrassing or weird, just singing to yourself. But I can play guitar at home and feel completely comfortable. So I practiced the guitar part, but I never practiced playing guitar and singing. Well, I practiced it a little bit, but nowhere near enough. Turns out playing guitar while you're singing is a very different skill. You have to learn to multitask, it's like patting your, rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time. You have to split your brain up between the two tasks. Nowadays I don't find it difficult really after practicing it for a long time, but I hadn't practiced it at all then, so I was really struggling to play this very basic guitar part and sing this very basic line. But I remember at the end of the performance, I was like, I'm gonna be the coolest dude in the world. I played my guitar and I went, brown. Yeah, that's the metal sign I was doing, but yeah, into the crowd of children. was very funny. It was, looking back on it, very funny. But I felt very cool, and that's like, that's what it feels like to be accepted by a group. That's what it feels like to have verification that people like you. Because I can't understand if someone likes me or not, like, by the look on their faces or the way they talk to me. I'm constantly paranoid that all my friends hate me, or are secretly plotting against me. It's been that way since as far back as I can remember, that someone might make an accident, like might accidentally be late to something, or accidentally forget to do something. And something in the back of my mind will think they did that on purpose because they're trying to fuck with me. They're trying to make me in debt to them. They're trying to manipulate me. So, if you're standing in front of people and they're clapping for you, you can be pretty sure they're not lying. Like, I can't tell from the look of your face when you're talking to me, or the tone of your voice, whether I've done something to upset you, or whether you're lying to me or something. I mean, I can now I'm better, but I was much worse as a kid. Slightly better now, but as a kid I had no fucking clue. Like, that's why I got in trouble so much, because I would do a bad thing without knowing I'd done a bad, like, I don't know how, I must have been stupid, but I would, like, do something that, thinking back on it, is obviously gonna get me in trouble, and then be completely shocked when it got me in trouble. I mean, the other reason I did it was because I was rebelling against the oppressive school system. Even though I knew it would get me in trouble, I would just do it anyway. But before I understood that, I would just do it without even realizing that it would get me in trouble, because I couldn't understand the social contract that everyone else had signed. It felt completely arbitrary, which is probably the beginning of my reason thinking everyone was trying to manipulate me, because I just assumed that all the teachers hated me. And I have some actual proof that they were conspiring against me at certain points, but whatever. I'm going on a massive digression again. So, performing, after I became the class clown, I started magic, and I realized you can perform to people and they'll like you, right? Well, they may not like you, but they'll for a second they will, right? And I get the attention from them. I get the proof that someone cares about me. By showing them a magic trick, and they're like, "Well, how do you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am pretty cool. You're right. I am a pretty cool guy. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I am a pretty cool guy." Because like at this point, I could no longer rely on my intellect, because, as I said before, the gifted and talented kid program and atmosphere had made me conclude that intelligence was a personality trait, not a skill, and therefore I hadn't been practicing the skill, and everyone else had just eventually caught up with me. And I was now just average, so I needed another way to prove to myself that I had some value as a human being. I still loved explaining stuff to people. Like, part of the reason I ended up doing cardistry over magic is because you can't explain how magic works to people, because it ruins the trick. And trust me, you don't want me to explain it. Whenever someone says, "How do you do that?" I always answer, you don't actually want to know, because if you know, you'll never be able to enjoy that trick again. And also, most magic is based off of the same few principles, so once you know some of the basic principles of magic, you can understand how most tricks work. It's quite hard to fool me, even though I haven't kept up with magic in a long time. Most card tricks don't fool me unless they're unless they're very clever, which there are a lot of amazing, clever card tricks out there that completely fool me, and genius magicians out there that completely fool me. I mean, there's an entire show called Fool Us where they fool Penn and Teller, who are far more knowledgeable about magic than I am. So I'm not that hard to fool, but most tricks, like even me, most tricks don't fool me, because there's a few basic principles that once you understand them, you can easily see through them, which is why I don't explain magic tricks to people, which sucks, because you don't, the appeal runs out. Once you've done the trick, there is no, and here's how I did it, extra bit, where people will ask you questions. It's just, the only thing they can do is, "You got any other tricks? Can I see another trick?" And eventually you run out of tricks. especially tricks you can do on a school playground or in a bus, because I used to just perform for random people on the street. I used to go out to people and just say, "Can I do a magic trick to you? Would you like to see a magic trick?" And I'd do a magic trick and they'd be like, "Very good, young boy, very good. Now, here's £1. Be off with you." And they didn't do that. One time someone gave me £1. It was a very nice moment. But yeah, that's why I ended up doing cardistry, because that you can explain. People don't know what cardistry is. They're like, "What's that? Do you do magic?" And I'm like, "Well, I do a bit of magic, but mostly I do cardistry." It's kind of like juggling with playing cards or skateboarding. The goal is to just develop the skills for the sake of it, rather than anything to fool people. You know, I get to do the whole spiel. I get to show off my skills, and then people are like, "Wow, you have value as a human being." Thank you. I do have value as a human being. Thank you for telling me that. And eventually that ran out. I got bored of that or whatever. I ended up moving away from that life. Didn't really care about it so much anymore, blah blah blah. And I realized that my class clownery, my messing around for approval, all that shit was just a lie. No one actually cared about me. I was just a character. I was a side character, you know. I was the class clown. I had a label as a character, so, you know, I realized the more I talk, the more trouble I get in, because I still didn't completely understand people's motivations. I don't to this day, probably never will. Didn't know I was autistic at the time. Still don't, to be real. I mean, I'm pretty sure, but I haven't got my official diagnosis yet. Gotta be on a waiting list. But I realized, you know, I'd get in trouble constantly. You don't understand. I was a bad kid. I got expelled, man. I was like... So I realized eventually, at a certain point, I was just hurting people. I was hurting myself, and I was hurting my family. I was hurting my friends. And I was like, fuck this. It's not worth it. I can't control myself when I'm out there. You can't put me in a situation like that. I don't have the emotional maturity to deal with it. So I'm gonna find a better way to be, a safer way to be, where I don't hurt people and I don't hurt myself. And that's when I sort of forced myself to become an introvert. And now we're here. Damn shame that my battery ran out, because I was quite enjoying wandering around my room. But now I have to plug myself in. Not the most flattering angle. Is this charging? Yeah. So eventually, after forcing myself to become more introverted and going off to sixth form, which is in America high school, you know, I made the decision in my second. I dropped out of my first sixth form and ended up going to. I was neat for like half a year or a year, and then moved to a different one. And decided I just wouldn't talk to people. I was like, well, what's the point of even having friends at this? Like, I have I have some close friends, the same friends I have to this day, Lil Crazy Bitch and Young Psy. I have these IRL friends. I have some friends online. There's no reason for me to even try and socialize. I should just like completely focus on just getting my head down, like getting through the day, just not even bothering to interact with people. And so that's what I did, and I just went in and watched Lucky Star on my computer every day. And at this point, you know, I was getting into anime through 4chan, which I discovered at some point. I get into anime, and I found out about Digi. I saw Digi's videos. I was like, these are pretty cool. Eventually, I don't even know how, I stumbled upon Digiball After Dark. And that was basically like, fuck, this is just me. This is just like something I've never even seen before. Because another thing Digi has that I have, again, this all came from a tangent when I was talking about the gifted and talented stuff. Digi also was told she was a genius, right? And I think that leads to never gaining a work ethic, right? And both me and Digi have the same problem where we have our eyes are too big for our stomachs. We start big projects and then lose motivation halfway through when we don't get the gratification that we need, because it needs to be visceral and satisfying. That's why I learned to make music so fast. That's why I have such an efficient workflow that I can make good music quickly. Because if I didn't, I would never make music. I would never be able to do it. I have to be able to work fast. And I work very fast. I work faster than anyone I know. And I work hard as well. It's not easy just because I do it fast. It's hard, but I do it fast and hard. It's how I like it, baby. It's how I like it. Fast and hard. Yeah. I had to learn to work fast, and if there's something that doesn't allow me to work fast, it's incredibly frustrating. Today I had to use Unity for a school project. Unity is badly designed. It's just badly designed for a musician, because I'm making music and using Unity to do music. It's optimized for people who have a game design and programming type mindset, not a musical mindset. And all the stuff to do with sound in Unity is designed for a game designer, not a musician. And it's all completely unintuitive. It's all hidden in weird menus, and it's just not good. And it is super frustrating, and it's bloated as fuck because it's a game engine, so it has to do a billion things. Which means everything's bloated and complicated. I like simple, fast. Unity is not fast. I got so fucking frustrated. And I wasn't even doing anything very complicated. I mean, part of that's just because I don't know the program as well as I know other programs. I'm getting very sidetracked. So that's why I bring up Digi a lot in these videos. That was the point of this tangent. Is because after I found Digi's videos, and then I found some other people. I found Star's channel, I found Plunder's channel, the PCP in general, the whole, Munchie, Give and Take, all of this stuff. I was like, oh, YouTubers don't have to be... YouTube is just an extension of what I've been doing. And then eventually, after talking to Star for a while, and after being very into insomnia analysis, I was like, I'm going to make my own insomnia analysis. And then I realized that making a YouTube video is a way I can continue my addiction to explaining stuff to people without them having to ask a question first. I can just sit here and explain what's the point of freedom to people in the way I understand it. No one has to ask me. None of my peers are going to ask me, hey, let's have a philosophical discussion. Not in real life. On the internet, sure. Not in real life is anyone ever going to ask me, let's have a philosophical discussion about is freedom an axiomatic need? Or is it, thanks for your comment by the way, or is it like born out of other things? That's blah, blah, blah. No one's going to ever ask me that shit. But no one's ever going to ask Digi, is the artist abstract? No one's going to ask Digi, all this shit, whatever. What's Bathos? Hey Digi, hey man, what's going on? It's me, your big old buddy, old pal, what's up? You mind going on a drunken winding rant about Bathos real quick? It's never gonna happen, but YouTube allows it to happen. That's what's great about it. I'm gonna turn this down. I hope it's not too loud. Or distracting. So that's my analysis of this channel. Is it lets me continue my addiction to explaining things, to sharing information, that sort of thing, while remaining introverted so I don't hurt people. And I'd say in a somewhat healthy manner. But then I also have the problem of not being able to complete big projects, like 2005 for example, which I still want to finish. I still think I will finish it, but it's just I'm just taking a break right now. I'm thinking once I finish uni work, I'll get back to 2005. That's my goal, but God knows if it'll actually happen. But I managed to finish The Sacred Cow. It was supposed to be 26 episodes, but ended up making it a little shorter. I think that was a good thing. That was a good idea, though. I'm gonna, since this is supposed to be an analysis of my channel, let me open up my channel, because I've now analysed the historical context. But now I want to talk about what's going on here. What's going on here? My most recent videos, Sacred Cow, of course, it was my big project. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, although I kind of wish more people had seen it. Put quite a lot of effort into that. That's probably the most effort I've put into a YouTube thing, is The Sacred Cow. That was mostly, again, a digi thing, inspired by... I used to have a series called Fuck. I had like Fuck Episode 1, Fuck Episode 2, Fuck Episode 3, but that was mostly just like a clip show of multiple vlogs chained like smaller vlogs chained together. But I watched Everything is Devilman, the Gecko Estate episode, and I realized I need a Gecko Estate. I need a series I need a series with a general thematic through line. In the Gecko Estate, it's the house, and that, with me, it's the cow, the sacred chow, chaos, whatever, in which I can just go, with the broad reaching implications, through which I can make a series of long form vlog style videos, just like the Gecko Estate, but more more like weird and philosophical, whereas the Gecko Estate's more personal and I don't even know what it is. That was the idea, and then at some point I thought of incorporating music into it. Also, I just randomly remembered I need to upload some shit to Patreon. I'm late. Whatever, I'll do it after this video. So that was what The Sacred Cow was, and it sort of became the finale, the like 4-hour long fucking movie that it is, which no one's gonna care about. It's my end of trash, it's my Christmas Day, but it's not, because I didn't put anywhere near as much effort as those videos had, because I work fast, and if I don't work fast, I don't work at all. But aside from The Sacred Cow, the stuff I talked about, the stuff I've done, I did the day in the life video yesterday, or the day before I filmed it, the day after I posted it. That was inspired by ReviewBar. He did that, he does that, and it's like but it kind of fucked me up, because it let me see myself with no delusions. The What's the Point in Freedom video came obviously out of the recent events happening in America and around the world, and I was just like thinking about it doesn't have a good philosophical base. Like, people, there may be people who think essentially if you can do as much arguing as you want, you can have a great opinion, but if you can have a great thought, but if you don't understand the very base, the philosophical base of why you think that, then in an argument you're going to lose. And the current world, the current uprisings are a war of information. It's a war of symbols, actually. A war of symbols, you'll notice. I could talk about that for 10,000 years, just read Debord. And so if you're fighting a war of symbols, you need to understand the underlying philosophy, because you're going to need to explain, like, you need to create and explain things to people. And if you don't understand why freedom is important, then you can't argue for something for which knowing that freedom is important is an underlying truth that you have to accept. And obviously this is just one way of understanding freedom. There's other people who have other views of why freedom is good or bad, or less or more important. It's just my own personal take, personal philosophy. Then I have the things which satirize violence in their medium to critique blah blah blah. Blah. That's a video essay inspired by Patricia Taxon. And this is kind of the direction I want to take my channel in, a more philosophical type of shit, talking about, now that I've actually started reading some philosophy and and stuff like that, like, look, it's right here. You can I have a PDF of Anti-Oedipus open. I can't be bothered to show you, but and I'm also reading House of Leaves again. Sorry, yeah, but now I'm more into philosophy than I've been, and actually like understanding the world through a lens of knowing how to think about things. I just want to try and do some more of these video essay type stuff, but not necessarily video essay, but more broadly philosophical, because I think there's two parts of the Digi After Dark style, my style content. Is part one is the going insane in your room, and part two is interesting philosophical ideas. And I feel like the Sacred Cow just killed the going insane in my room. Like, that was the entire point of it by the end, was to completely kill that. And so what I've got left over is the philosophical stuff. And so I'm freed up to talk about that now that I don't have to worry about being completely nuts. I can just be nuts and talk about dumb shit like freedom and art. But if we go all the way back, like, if we go back a little bit, some of my, I don't know, man. It's so the thing about it is explaining things to people. At a certain, like, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, man, I just make art for myself. I don't care if anyone sees it. I don't care if I stay underground forever, man. And at first I was really into that, as you can tell from the start of my channel. The point of this channel is to be obscure or whatever. But now it's like, actually it is quite gratifying to have an audience. Not just for self-validation, well, partly for self-validation, of course, but partly because it, you can, it's a goal, right? It's a target. It narrows your options. It gives you a limitation, and that's good. The art is born from limitations. I still believe that. So if you have some limitation, like, I have to do something which my audience can appreciate, like, I can't just explain something in a way me and my friends would understand. I have to explain something in a way that someone who's subscribed to my channel for any of my possible videos would understand. And that's a good challenge. It forces me to be to build good arguments. It forces me to build good arguments. Sadly, it also forces me to make good thumbnails and titles, but I'm actually getting in my opinion, I'm getting pretty good at thumbnails and titles. Like, I would click on my thumbnails and titles. I don't know if anyone else would, but I would. Which is all that matters, because I don't know. I can analyze, like, I don't even know. It's very, there hasn't been, unlike literature or games or anything like that, there is no language or study where people have figured out how to analyze YouTube videos yet. I say yet, but it's never going to happen, because YouTube is now just TV Mark II. It's turning into that. And so no one's ever going to want to analyze YouTube videos in that way, but there needs to be a separate language for it, because it's different from film. I'm talking directly to you, blah, blah, blah. Like, It needs a different language to understand it. We don't have that language, and I could invent that language, but I can't do it by analyzing myself. I have to go out and make some analysis videos about other YouTubers, and there are some that I would want to do, but I need to have solid points first. I need to think about things through in a way I can understand them first. It's no thank you backwards. It's not after dark, it's backwards, it's the mirror image. The thumbnail is the skate park inverted. It's the mirror image of the public persona. You understand now? Who's my channel banner? You ever paid attention to it? Probably not. You probably haven't paid attention to it. But you'll see, in fact, let me get this even better. We can compare and contrast. On my No Thank You channel, the channel banner is this, which is the cover for the book Society of the Spectacle. Because all my music, from like Fodep to now, has been about analysing the spectacular nature of the world. Analysing the world of images through images. Whereas the Backwards channel has a picture of Hunter S. Thompson from, well, Raoul Duke technically, from the movie Fear and Loathing. Well, I guess Johnny Depp technically. Because that channel is all about fear and loathing, paranoia. But no one would ever notice that, of course, because that would be giving people too much credit. And that's another reason to build an audience. Probabilities, statistics. There's an Easter egg in the Sacred Cow that no one has found, and I don't expect anyone to find. Because my audience is too small. 286 subscribers at the current time of recording. Statistically, of those 286, I'd say there's maybe 20 who are, I would recognize by name, people who actually follow every video. Maybe 20 who actively engage, don't just passively watch. Of those 20, how many are actually going to go, and of those 20, the percentage of people who would actually be bothered to search through the entire thing and go through the entire effort of hunting this Easter egg, too low. Of an audience of only 286 people, it's too much of a small sample size to guarantee that someone out there will get every aspect, and the Discord server isn't cool enough to have information share. Because I don't understand how to run a Discord server. I don't know what the problem with it is. I know it's dead, I know it's a problem that no one talks in there, but I don't know how to make it active. I literally don't know. I don't know what a Discord server needs to be active. I thought it just needed lots of people, but it has people and no one ever talks in there. It needs interesting discussion, but that can't come from me only, it has to come from them. So how do I encourage discussion in I don't know, a rank system? There's Discord servers with rank systems, I know that. But no one fucking cares about them that I've ever met. Weird. I don't understand how it works. But if that was active, then I wouldn't even need as big an audience because people could share information, but no one cares about sharing information. So in order to actually have my art understood, I need to build a bigger audience because I need to have the probability that someone out there will recognize every element, and then they can share the information, and eventually the entire community can build a picture that is approximates the truth. That's the idea. So, oh fuck, knew that was gonna happen. But to build an audience that's actually worthwhile, you have to make worthwhile content. And there's nothing more embarrassing than making pandering, lowest common denominator content that fails. If you make a video that is too mainstream for your niche audience, but never reaches the mainstream, all you've done is alienate anyone who ever cared about you, which is bad. Or maybe good, who knows. I think I need to be more friendly towards buzzwords. I think I need to just use more buzzwords. I'm not that far away. That's the crazy thing, is that I'm not actually that far away from like. So David Bowie, for example, worked for, and I'm talking about my music here, not this channel specifically, just my entire public persona, is that, so like David Bowie worked for many, many, many years, made loads of music, did loads of different things before he actually gained any fame after Space Odyssey. He had a big one-hit wonder, Space Odyssey, and then like years before he actually had any critical success or commercial success after that. And before that, even longer, of course. Same with loads of people. Loads of people work very hard for a very long time and get very little. But I'm not that far away. I am close enough that I'm currently still motivated, which is weird. So someone who like people know, like Fraxium, for example. Fraxium, of course he's more famous, or I think they're non-binary. I don't know what pronouns they use. I would just use gender-neutral pronouns to be polite. They are mostly known at the moment for the song Thosmosa because of an aggressive guerrilla marketing campaign, which was super fucking obnoxious, and I'm not going to do that shit. So don't worry about that. An aggressive guerrilla, but the song's pretty good, so whatever. An aggressive guerrilla marketing campaign behind Thosmosa, which allowed Fraxium to have some name recognition. But Fraxium only has like 2,000 and something SoundCloud followers. And Fraxium being mostly a SoundCloud-based artist. 2,000 followers is not super, super far away from where I am, especially accounting for exponential growth. Fraxium is a known name in the underground SoundCloud world. Pretty well-known name. I am at like, I predict I'll probably reach 1,000 SoundCloud followers by the end of the year. And I mean, accounting for exponential growth, the time it took me to reach 10 SoundCloud followers was the same as it took me to reach from 10 to 100. You know, that type of situation, you know how growth works on the internet. But my YouTube channel is not really like that. It's sort of slowed down. Like I'm not gaining followers at the same rate, which is fine. It's niche content by nature. It's hard to say, really. It's hard to say. That's the conclusion of this analysis. I've been talking for 48 minutes, and my conclusion is, who knows? Who knows what's going on? Let me show you how I made this thing. It's I don't know if you can actually see anything. Here, let me turn it so I can see it too. It's an alchemy thing. Right, it's just a sine wave, or it's actually just a preset, an organ preset with a long attack. No, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is this. The sound doesn't matter that much. What matters is it has reverb and shit on it. What matters is this, the probability sequencer. So it's actually made for drums, but there's no law against using it not for drums. So I just made a C major triad. I just used probability sequencing so it gets triggered at a random probability, slowed the tempo way down so it wouldn't, like, if I sped it up. It's bad. You gotta have it slow, so it just gets active once in a while. That's how you make music. I rolled off the top end as well. Gotta roll off that high end, boy. Otherwise it might be too harsh. Not that it actually is too harsh, but I was worried it might be. So, I guess that's the analysis. This video turned out quite long. I might go cut my hair because it looks kind of awful right now. And I have to go back to doing more fucking uni work at some point today because I didn't finish. It shouldn't be too hard. But I'm not looking forward to it. It's not fun. University, not fun. Don't go. Like, comment, subscribe.